Hello, Be Awesome at Facility Management listeners. This is Joshua Peach, Paul Anastasia, and Kenny Wirtz for an impromptu NSPMA Leadership Summit debrief. I am back at home in Massachusetts, and for those of you that are watching, you can see that Paul and Kenny have got quite the background. Boys, where are you?
We happen to be down here in Key West. So our special guest today is Ken Wirtz, and behind us is Ian. So
Yes.
we have Ken Wirtz and Ian as our special guests. I'm not sure how clear the picture is behind us, but that is low tide at the ocean right now, which is probably about 10 or 15 feet from the edge of that balcony.
That is wild. And I was there. I got home at 2:30 this morning. I flew out early with some time sensitive stuff I had to do back here. But that water was clear and calm, and it is a lot different from what it is now. So, first and foremost, stay safe and enjoy, and don't go doing any surf diving there when we're done with this thing. So,
yeah, there's one guy down the street a little bit doing some surfing.
He's doing some surfing, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's the other side of the pier, right outside the window here.
One adventurous soul.
Some people just don't care. Well, this is good. Glad you guys could make some time, and when we do see you out of the shadows, this is like I feel like I'm talking to David Allen Boucher, from Nighttime Listening all those years, never Nighttime Magic, and never once saw their faces, but kind of just thought about doing this. We wanted to do some podcasts in person while I was down there, and because I left and because of the storm, we couldn't do it. But I wanted to share with our listeners, because I think it was just such an amazing couple of days that I was there, and you were there for the last day today, and something that hasn't been done in this space, which was this National School Plant Managers Association first ever Leadership Summit. It was an invitation-only event. It was for executive directors and leaders in state organizations or leaders in states that don't have organizations and hopes to grow one. And there was a representation of 26 states that came down, risked being stuck there to sit down and meet with one another and have some pretty dynamic speakers. So let's talk about some of the powerful takeaways or thoughts or experiences or things that you guys thought. So I think where Kenny's our distinguished guest, we'll let him open up so you and I can think through ours, Paul.
Yep. Thanks, Joshy. It was amazing to see the amount of knowledge and expertise and passion that was in that one room with us over the past 2 days. Just sharing information, sharing best tips, secrets. I mean, I have like pages and pages of notes with new ideas that are new to me, but other people have implemented them for years and have been greatly successful. So we're gonna, take some of this information back, and we've connected with some new lifelong friends down here, and it was a great opportunity. But now we're now we're on the second floor of an oceanfront hotel room, looking out at the end of days rolling in over the waves. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
I think the thing that touched me right off the bat was that you said there was 26 states represented.
Yeah.
And all of those people got on a plane 2 or 3 days ago, some earlier, flew down here knowing what was coming. I mean, it's with nowadays forecasting, we knew this was coming, weeks ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And to be together, to do what we do as facilities managers and just brainstorm and share tips and tricks and best practices, and to learn as well as teach others. I mean, I think our industry is just so amazing that way, that people flew into this.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the commitment, right? I mean, it was a huge commitment, and I hated to leave early, and I did everything I could not to. I mean, I had 5 plane tickets booked with my name at all different points in time today and tomorrow, and it was just it was a guy in the lobby that scared me. It was somebody that was doing all the worrying. I mean, leading up to this, when we talked, it was like, hey, if the plane shows up on Sunday, we're going to get on it and go down there and we'll figure it out. And I was all on board. And then all of a sudden yesterday at about 11 o'clock, there was just this knee jerk. And like I said, I there's something I had a commitment to for over a year that I could not get out of, and I did not want to get out of. And ended up being, the last ticket sold on the last flight out last night. So
yeah. How long were you trapped in Miami?
8 hours.
All right.
Yeah.
There are people that took an Uber today.
Yeah.
From Key West to get to Miami to try and get a flight out. So
yeah,
they're driving through this hurricane over. How long is that bridge? The Route 1 bridge from Key West to?
I think it's 165 miles from Key West to Miami. So it's an expensive Uber ride if nothing else. But if the bridges are all open too, because you guys are on the calm side of the island.
Yeah.
So it really all depends. And Kim Lafferty just pinged us with Hi Friends from Ohio. She was down there for the event. Guessing she got back, and I think she was one of the early departures with us.
Yeah, she was able to squeeze out just in time before everything shut down.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
So one of the things, I'm not sure if this is going to come through on the screen, but I just want to show you this. Look at this room.
Yep.
This went on for 30 minutes after the end of the event.
Yeah.
Nobody got up and ran out of that room. No one panicked. All of the facilities professionals that were there, we sat for another 30 minutes and walked around that room and just, again, traded stories and talked and contacts and emails, and so we can stay connected. It just amazes me what went on here in the past couple of days.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yesterday when I spoke, so I spoke yesterday morning, Angie Peterman from Oregon, she was our kickoff speaker, and she set the pace real well for us. And then I was the second, and I was supposed to wrap up at 9, and there was such engagement that at like 9:05, 9:07, I said, hey guys, if you need to do a bio break, by all means, go for it. But this is the greatest compliment for a speaker to have you engaged and wanting to continue this discussion, when you're up against a break. You just don't get that. You just don't get that energy. You don't get that passion and that want to learn from one another at such a level. And you guys experienced it. You guys experienced it firsthand, straight through the whole thing. I mean, there were a good number of people that stuck it out and are going to stick it out through the storm, and they're going to be stuck there, for an extra, day or two. So, Kim got back at 2. That was right about the same time I did. She's thrilled to be in attendance. Her biggest takeaway is the power of partnership to serve school facility professionals. That was a pretty common thread message, right?
Yeah.
And what was nice was it wasn't just school plant managers, right? It wasn't school plant manager associations. I mean, Kim's from an association of school business officials. John Hutchison, who was one of our speakers, is Kansas ASBO, and the ASBO International upcoming president. Angie Peterman was Oregon ASBO and Oregon School Plant Manager Association executive director. She figured out, the power of partnership by being the executive director of both, which is great because, in my career anyway, I've experienced where associations are islands, not just islands in their own states. It's compared to other school plant manager associations with their team. The superintendents, the business officials, the IT directors, and other things. And there were some real synergies that were formed that I thought was really cool. And I'm with you, Kenny. I had my new NSPMA Be Awesome journal out on my layover, and I was jotting down all the notes because I was, standing and running around and everything, and I was trying to capture all of the things that were said. That were really powerful to me, and I got probably 4 pages of notes, just stuff right off the top of my head, which was wild.
Yeah.
And a lot of takeaway, like a lot of stuff you could leave and put into practice, right away. No cost, low cost.
I probably have at least half a dozen to a dozen new initiatives that just make so much sense that aren't even heavy lifts. It's not like, oh my God, we need to create a subcommittee, we need to do this, we need to do that. It's like, no. We're going to add a meeting every year for any new facilities director who's been at the job for 5 years or less. And we're going to have professional development, and we're going to have lunch for any new directors.
Yep.
Easy. Done.
Yep.
But we never even considered that. That was never a thing.
Right.
And the energy in the room, most of the people, as you two know, because you were speakers, you were given an hour to speak, and most people spoke for maybe 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and then the rest was audience participation. Everybody had input, and the excitement and the energy. I mean, Greg Luckabow, who was one of our most dynamic speakers, he was walking around the room earlier with his journal, asking people to autograph and sign it like you do when you're leaving high school with your yearbook. I mean, just that excitement to see it, and he knows everybody there. It's not like it was the first time he met most of those people.
Yeah, I think Greg probably has a treasure chest of things like that, because I believe he has the first Facility Masters Conference memo. I'm pretty sure he showed it to me.
It was part of his presentation. He put it up in his presentation with a big handwritten master on it, because he used that as the master to make copies for the other memos that went out.
Well, and that's kind of like what I was saying, is that there's a lot that Greg did with the creation of the Facility Masters Conference with Roger Young and others, that we can put into practice today, because they put that into play during the worst recession of all time in history, and so he's a big memory guy. I tell you, Greg is, for the backstory, I had the honor to provide the speakers for this event. John Bailey, who I sent the message, I don't know if he's gonna be able to make it. John Bailey, executive director and planner for National School Plant Managers Association, put this event together and asked me to put together speakers that would be dynamic, that have a compelling story, that have experience in this field, that can help people and go with takeaways. And Kenny, you were the first time executive director, plumber turned facility director turned facility director turned executive director, and to talk to that story and succession planning. And then John Hutchison, all the things that he did, and his work ethic, and getting people involved for, getting board members to get interested to the point where there has to be votes, and then what do you do to get the votes? And then Angie Peterman, who's again that experience, that history. She was also an ASBO International executive director, and then Greg Luckabow, the historian, as well as the guy that still makes it happen today. And that's, even today, he has that level of excitement where he's going around and asking for autographs, and he's genuine and he cares about it. And he came up to me yesterday he texted me yesterday when I was leaving, and he said, "Hey, can I get a couple of Be Awesome shirts? I got some people I want to give them to." And so he told me a couple of stories, and I'm like, absolutely. And I gave him the shirts, and I called him to say thank you today. And he was like, sharing with me how he found out. And he goes, "Yeah, I was just eavesdropping." So I interjected, and I had to ask some questions, but I learned this about these people because I paid attention. So, it was really cool. And his passion and his care, and what he's doing is nothing short of extraordinary for all of you guys. And it looks like Cheryl Quadro from Johnson Controls, who was there, she said, "Yikes, some of us snagged an extra plane out that Delta sent last evening at 5:15 to Atlanta. She's sitting in Memphis listening. It was a great event. She hated to leave." So I think she gets the record for the longest travel time home that left early. You got people might get home before her from Key West at that rate. But no, it was just one of those, for me, it was one of those, as soon as we walked in the door of the resort, it was like it was on. The energy just amplified, right?
We all fed off of each other. I mean, it was so good for the soul to see that many dynamic leaders in one room together, and all of them are passionate about doing better.
Right. And most of you didn't know each other, which was amazing, because it seemed like everybody, by the time dinner was done on Sunday, it seemed like everyone there was lifelong friends. And I believe it's because everyone shares the same purpose and has that passion for the most part. And and care, and then that carries over to, you know, the similarities, the commonalities, and the care for now one another, the new friends that are all getting together.
And one of the things that Greg did during his talk was he said, you know, this networking is more important than anything else that goes on here. He said, I want you all to look around the room, find someone that you have not talked to in the past 2 days, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to go and talk to them. And I'm going to be honest with you, being the last speaker at this time, it was hard for people to find someone that they hadn't talked to.
Yeah.
That was not an easy feat.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we all ended up getting up and talking, and the room, the volume in the room just went straight to the ceiling.
Yep.
And it's epic. And then you talked about the resort. I've got to tell you, we know how hard it is to get labor in this atmosphere today, in this world. This place, there were people manning the buffet this morning for us for breakfast. There are people at the front desk checking people out. I don't know where they're going if they're checking them out, because there's no place to go here. Roads are closed. Airport's closed.
They had the squeegee attendant.
Yeah, there's a guy outside our door squeegeeing water out of the hallways.
Yep.
There are people all along the outside with rain jackets on. There was even someone out there. There were a couple in the pool a little while ago, and people, staff out there around the pool where they were. We just had lunch in the in a little restaurant here, and they said it's a limited menu, but there was 3, 4, 5 people I saw working in the lunch area in the food service. It's amazing the people that came to work today here at this resort, and they should be commended for whatever they're doing to keep their people so dedicated, and to have them just show up with a smile and do their job with this going on behind us.
Yeah, their attitude was absolutely just still service, oriented, service driven. Hi, how are you? Oh, enjoy your lunch here. Everyone was lovely and pleasant and kind. And it's like, wow, this is pretty rough, because you've got families at home and houses and everything else that you're probably worried about too. Like half the people here, we just were on a group text message of, hey, I'm going to Circle K to buy some frozen pizzas or whatever, because everything's shutting down at 2. Does anyone need water? Everyone's scrambling to just be ready for when the bad part of the storm hits and when we potentially lose power. But everyone in the hotel is still here.
It's like business as usual. None of them, they're going about their regular day, only with the rain jacket on.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you, and I have to say that we have to give them a full-on plug, which is it's the Casa Marina Key in Key West. It's a Hilton hotel. As you can see, it's right on the water if you're watching this. And you're spot on. The staff from when we walked in, the front desk, I think his name was Patrick, and I'm drawing a blank on the woman's name that was helping me. But the room wasn't ready, and it says, "Hey, we're going to hook you up. You're going to get a great room." I had a beautiful room that looked out onto the water. But the staff there, hands down, Katie that was working the pool bar, and then all those people came over when we first got there. Was taking care of everybody. The buffet dinner on Sunday, there were people there making sure that everybody was getting taken care of. The breakfast that was outside, with questionable weather, like these guys they were ready. They wanted us to have the true experience, and for us to be able to get fresh air, but they were prepared to move it inside if they had to, which I'm assuming breakfast this morning was inside.
Yes.
But they had people waiting for you at the door, baggage, the baggage people. As a matter of fact, I checked my bags because my room wasn't ready. And when I went back, I didn't even have to ask. They had already put my bags in my room. So, fantastic service, took unbelievable care of everybody. And we weren't a big event. It was under 70 people. So if you're thinking about having an event, one, make sure you got some pretty strong stomach folks that are willing to go during hurricane season. That's obviously when you're going to get your best rates. But if you're looking for a really cool spot to have an event, this team does it right. There was no negativity by anybody, and they could have been. And that was at the airport last night. Yesterday. It was a zoo. I mean, everybody that it's one of those things that you sit there and you go, man, I wish I could be working here today and I could just say, I don't know where your poor preparation became my problem, because
Right.
that's, that's what these people should be saying in reality, because there were a whole bunch of people that didn't think to leave, that didn't feel it necessary. And then as the storm came, and I have to plead ignorance, I don't know a lot about hurricanes, but as they were showing that cone of destruction, and it's probably it's got to be at least more than 100 miles out to sea from where you guys are. But that doesn't mean you don't get remnants, and you don't get rain, and you don't get wind, and you're at sea level, so you get underwater real fast.
Yeah.
But even the gate agents and everybody at the airport, calm, cool, and collected. Like, there was just like, we got this. And you're right, they've got to go home, and they live there. And they have had, was it Ida or Irma, that went through there and basically destroyed the island, the Keys, years ago. And a lot of them stayed, and they're still there. So, no, that's a good point.
I mean, it is a community that's based on its tourism.
Yep.
Last night, the rain started last night, and we were out downtown on Duval Street, and restaurants were open, bars were open,
bands were playing.
they were playing live music. It was like, what storm?
Yeah.
This is what we do. As long as the emergency management people say we can stay open, we're going to stay open.
Yeah, there's one place that they're going to do potluck today. Hot dogs and chili.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, wrote a song about it. Here it goes. They just start singing.
Yeah.
No, I think that I've never been to a professional event down there, but they do a wonderful job, and it was an amazing honor to be a small part of it, to just get the experience, and I'm hopeful and going to do everything I can to support NSPMA moving forward to ensure that it happens again. So
I think they've really broken out. They were an organization that we were part of many years ago, from Massachusetts, from the MFAA, and then we kind of pulled away for a while. But it just seems like they're heading in the right direction again. They're pulling people together. A leadership summit, which is something that would never have happened in the past, which was great. I mean, we met, the president of Louisiana, school plant managers, and people from Seattle, and people from Washington and Kansas, Missouri and Minnesota, and all over. And then the vendor partners, the vendor partners that were there they weren't there to sell you something. They were there to teach you. And that's so important. It's, in a group like we have, a lot of times they feel that they pay a sponsorship and they want to be there to sell you members. These people, there was no hard sell. They were there. They were hanging with us. We went out to dinner last night. We had beers later with some of them, and it was, and not at any point no one said, "Hey, I want you to look at this product. Hey, I want you to, check out my service. Hey, go." None of that.
And
that's tomorrow.
That the dinner,
that's when you get home.
When we get home, then the email box is going to be full. The dinner we went out to, multiple partner sponsors were at the same dinner together. It wasn't like, we're going to host this dinner. Everyone's coming with me. This is my event. They're like, no, they wanted to provide a format for us to engage with each other and have good conversation. It was very cool.
And I'm assuming they were there by invite too, because there was only 4 or 5, and they must have been handpicked to be there. I know they paid, towards the sponsorship, but they're special partners with this.
They're the diamond sponsors for the National School Plant Managers Association.
Yeah.
So they're the top tier sponsors. But this was an out of the box thought that John Bailey and Keith Watkins and all of the board of NSPMA kind of came up with. That's never yet, like you say, an invite only. There were people that said, "Hey, I want to come to this thing," because there were a couple of posts that were put on LinkedIn talking about it, and it was like, no, these folks have already been picked. We've got a set number, and that's where we're going with it. And or there's a state that we went and asked for, who they would refer us to, because we didn't know anybody that we got some help with. So that's a pretty big thing for you to be able to hit your number, have the excitement and enthusiasm, and have it as kind of an invite only event. Most events are trying to do a land grab and say, I want everybody, anybody, got a pulse, pay to be here. And that wasn't the case here, which was really cool.
And I think in this location here at Key West, other than a little storm, there would have been all kinds of people that would have rushed to come here, make it a vacation, a working vacation.
Oh yeah. No, that's well, and it's not easy to get to.
Yeah. No.
Right. It's not even you can't get there from here.
No. Yeah. And it's even harder to get out of here.
Yeah. Right. Sometimes you can't. Well,
Miami is, Miami's 160 some odd miles away. That's your largest major airport. I flew up to Miami from Key West, a 22-minute flight, but you land and you got a whole bunch of stuff going on it's not easy. And it was yesterday was a 14-hour. I could have gotten to Alaska in probably less time.
There were people here from Alaska for the event.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Furthest away attendees, they got the credit for that. Yeah. And we got some comments that came in. Mark Mosquetto, old friend Mark, hope you don't mind a marketing guy crashing your broadcast. Never, always welcome, but wanted to jump in and say I'm praying for everyone in Ian's path. My daughter evacuated from Eckerd yesterday. Oh yeah, she's right up there, right where it's it's coming to. So
get it bad.
they're gonna get it. So glad she's evacuated and says be safe. Said I do a lot of work in the HR sector and that employment crunch is real and hits all markets. They've got to be doing something great in his employer. Yeah, we probably want to get those guys on the podcast. He's talking about the hotel, and he's spot on and right. It seems like in a lot of places, people show up to work just they're dealing with a lot of difficulties and challenges, to have your staff come on and be energized and invigorated and ready to rock and roll and happy is pretty cool. So. Talk to Gabrielle Blakey. She's got the number. She went to leave yesterday morning. Her ride home back to Albuquerque, 22 hours.
20.
So, yeah, that's a long day's night right there. Yeah. But glad you made it back. I know that was a lot of work. I saw her running around trying. I think she was on standby on a flight and trying to just make things work there. But yeah, that's Mark's hit the nail on the head, and that's something we're trying to figure out with schools too, right? Is how do we get and or retain current staff and keep them motivated and excited? And I think that's going to be a topic for a lot of these associations to go back to. I was talking to one state, and they're like, hey, the average custodian was making $11 an hour. Now I think it might have been Florida. And now the state's requirement is a $15 minimum. But how do you get people to be excited and amped up to come and do that work, which is a lot of the work that's going on in that hotel right now for $15 an hour. So you got to find their delivering their purpose and giving them passion to do it. And that's what I think that staff.
That was a talking point for us too. And Greg covered it really well during his session, just talking about during COVID, we're still paying these folks $11 to $12 an hour to actually go into a hazmat environment, to put themselves in risks, in harm's way, and not pay them anymore, not provide them anymore. Thank you so much for what you did. Now the COVID's in theory in everyone's rearview mirror. It's like, so now we're back to where we were, treating custodians horribly.
Right.
And that's the thing. We talked about how they're underappreciated, how they're taken for granted. And then in the same breath, we say the custodians don't understand how much they do for the children in their schools.
Right.
And so it's like, we're kicking them to the curb some days, and that's why they feel the way they do. They affect every child. And I think it was the guy from Louisiana was saying today that it's that person the kid that greets the kids every morning when they come in. That person that gives them the high five going down there. It's Mr. Mark or it's what was Annabelle today. They were talking about the senior custodian, Annabelle, and she's
she's not the senior custodian.
No, they made her.
She's the facilities
manager, and she's part of the administration team of the building. She meets with the principal and all of the other administrators of the building on a regular basis as an administrative professional. And most of us would know that person as the head custodian. So a title change and propping them up, and the kids think that she's the principal. That's what they said.
Yeah.
So it's amazing the way we've started to turn and bring the notice back to the people that deserve it, the people that are on the ground, boots on the ground, doing the job every day, day in, day out.
Well, that's something that's been amazing for me over the last couple of months. And I actually just had a call, 2 days ago, from a school district that just wants me to come in and talk to their custodial staff. And I'm sitting here saying, and I my pricing is transparent. What I charge is on my website. It's on my data sheets. It's everywhere. And they called and they knew what my price was. And I said, are you sure? Because we're talking about, 40, maybe 50 custodians. And they're like, yeah, they need to hear your message. It wasn't even like a question mark about it. And so I'm seeing that that schools are now saying we need to make a conscious investment into bringing awareness to our staff, specifically our frontline workers, specifically our custodians, and in some cases our bus drivers, because that's been increasing. We need people from outside to come and tell these people how awesome they are and the work that they do and how noble it is, and that we know that it's not for the money, and we know that you don't get thanked enough, but when you do, it's got to feel really, really good. And that's something that I'm seeing more of, and I'm appreciative and grateful for it, because you're absolutely right. And now that there's challenges with buses and bus routes, we've got superintendents driving bus routes and things like that around the country. There's more kids walking or getting rides to school, so that first and last smile is going to be Miss Annabelle, at the front door for many of these kids. And that smile is priceless, because that gives these kids hope in a very hopeless world that many of them have. So it's pretty powerful stuff. Keith Gourlay chimed in, even harder to leave. Well, I think he got back. He had a challenge getting down there, and then he left early. So hopefully you're good to go up in New Jersey there, Keith. Great to see you. And it was hard for me to leave too. So that's good. Well, what else do you guys got?
The two giveaways today, the two shirts.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty amazing. Well, one, Greg presented one to his wife of he was counting 40
something years,
4 years or whatever it was. And it's so many times we come to these conferences and we only know, the guy or the gal that's the facilities manager, where he brought his wife along and gave praise to her for the things that she does that allows him to do what he does for all of us, which is pretty amazing. You don't see that a lot. And then the other giveaway was to a Army veteran, not Air Force, but
paratrooper.
A paratrooper in the Army, who during his deployment jumped from a plane and his chute didn't open. And he is here to tell us the story in the room today. He was there to tell us the story. He said he was the last man out of the plane. And in a paratrooper's life, he said, you can't wait to get out of the plane and jump, because that's your happy space. And the last man is usually pushing everyone else out. He said, and then the CO coming down is the first one to open their chute, and then everybody opens them after that. And he said all of the chutes opened from his group, and his didn't. His went up, and he said it did a squid. It didn't open, and he was spinning sideways. And for him to deploy his spare chute, his emergency chute, he has to cut away the regular chute.
Yeah.
So while he was falling to the ground, falling like a rock by all of his group, said they watched him fall by him because their chutes are open, and he just kept falling. He cut away his chute, and he pulled what he called a Twinkie. He said it's a big yellow toggle on the shoulder to open up the emergency chute. And he said he remembers the emergency chute going up and that feeling of being in the cradle of the harness. He says, and he looked down and says, "Oh," and the ground was there.
Wow.
Hit the ground face first. He said,
knocked out.
Next thing he remembers, he was on a backboard, and he talked about the number of pins and screws and plates and wire that he has in his body to put him back together again. But it was pretty amazing story, and now he's there with us doing what we do.
And it was an amazing story too, because how he explained it, he was very cavalier.
Yep.
Like, so this is what we do. We jump out of planes, and it didn't pop open, and then training takes in, and so I fell hard and broke this and broke that. And it's like, you are the calmest, coolest, badass guy I think I've ever met. That is just amazing. Super, super nice guy. And he's here during a hurricane because he's passionate about what he does in schools.
Right.
So he's like, it's really a great story.
And no one in that room would have known that story. He would have just been, quote unquote, a facility director that's part of an association attending an event. If Greg Lookabout wasn't eavesdropping on a one-on-one conversation, and was like, wow, that right there's a story. Hope you don't mind me being nosy. And then that sent the trigger effect of him asking me for some shirts, and then I was running out, and he just kind of dropped that at me. And I'm like, what? There's somebody in the room that was a paratrooper, and the chute didn't the chute didn't release, and all this stuff, and I didn't hear about it. You kidding me? Yeah, absolutely. Take 2 shirts. And that talking about Greg's wife, that was something that Charlie Branham from Missouri had said to me that I brought up in my talk yesterday, which is the sense of family and making that important. And that's a multifold piece, right? That's your significant other, your kids, your direct relatives, but it's this family that we had here. And when you see the two merge and come together, and it was like Charlie said, hey, I'm guaranteed 24 attendees for my annual conference every year, because there's 24 spouses that have been to an event, and they said, you're not coming back without me. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back. You were frozen for a minute.
Oh, that was probably you.
I was going to say, I'm sure it's on your end.
I'm sure it's on your end.
Yeah. Well, it probably is.
What you can't hear on the microphone probably is how much the wind has picked up since we started this podcast. I mean,
well, I can see the waves. The waves are just blasting. Wow.
I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that at that end?
So how far is that water was close to your room, Kenny, 2 days ago, but it was calm. How close is the water to your actual? Well, I guess we're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
This is why I love Paul. He doesn't. Wow. Whoa.
Well, I can just barely hear you because of the crashing wave.
Oh, check out the surface.
And I think you can see over there we've got some surfers.
This guy's a soft man. And they're not even like really, like I'm not a surfer, but those aren't surfers.
I'm going to go back inside because I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm hoping everybody else can. That's amazing. Those aren't even like surf waves.
No.
It's just a smorgasbord of a mess.
And it's going in and out so fast that some of them were surfing out.
Oh my God.
Away from the land.
Yeah. Well, now I can see you guys. You're not like shadows anymore because the backlight.
You see,
we wanted to give you the full effect.
You've seen enough of what's going on out there.
Yeah. Keith Gourlay got in at 1:15, so I had him beat, and Dr. Blakey had him beat. Definitely had him beat on the time turnaround. And Mark said, a little recognition goes a very long way. Spot on assessment. This is shifting gears a little bit, but that is like, we got to say thank you more, right? And that's
right.
Yeah.
That's something that you just can't do enough of, and that's right on. So make gratitude your attitude. So, well, you guys, what else you got going on? You got to get the waiting game for your flight, hopefully tomorrow.
Yeah. So we heard that the first wave of flights tomorrow have already been canceled.
Right.
Ooh.
The early flights. We picked a 5:00 flight, thinking that later in the day we'd have a better chance to get out. But we heard, I think it was like up to noontime.
They've already canceled them.
Yeah.
So,
well, my noon tomorrow flight, which was an original. So what happens with these storms for people that don't have experience in them is a lot of times the airlines will double down on flights on the front end and the back end. So they'll have like a 12 o'clock flight, and then they'll bake in like a 12:15 flight, so that they can get all the people out on both ends. And so I had the original 12 o'clock flight, which was a planned flight, and they canceled that yesterday when I landed in Miami, which that was crazy. If there was ever, I've made a lot of decisions, and then it turned out like, I'm hopeful you guys come home tomorrow, and then I'll kick myself and say, man, I wish I rode that thing out with you. But I mean, the thing that most people didn't know was, those 4 flights that I had booked for today and tomorrow with my name on it. I landed in Miami. I went to the Admirals Club to sit down. I put my computer on, and literally within a minute, my computer started going off, and all 4 flights were canceled. So if there was ever one of those decisions of like, hey, I made the right decision to come home, that was it. That was my telling sign there. So
yeah, it's been interesting. And so Paul and I were talking. We don't know what the next conference that we can say, yeah, we did that, is going to be. Because a few years ago, we were stuck at Harrah's Casino in New Jersey, Atlantic City, at New Jersey's conference during the middle of a snowstorm.
Major snowstorm.
We're snowed into a casino at a conference. Now we've added hurricane. So Paul's thinking we have to go someplace.
I left for that, didn't I?
What's that?
Did I leave for that one, or was I there for that?
I think you were there. We had rooms up in the upper level, and they close schools and all that. In New Jersey, what they do with the casinos is they sell their rooms for $50 a night on a no school day because of snow, and all the townspeople come to the casino, bring their kids, and they're in the pool. And
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So we need to find a conference that's right beside an active volcano. We decided.
Yeah, what's next?
I mean, we need, we've done the snow.
Well,
we've done the hurricane.
So I flew into Alaska in 2018. But I flew into Fairbanks the day after the 9.0 hit, within a mile of downtown Anchorage. And in Fairbanks, when I landed, I looked outside a couple of times, and you'd see the telephone poles shaking. And then I'd look up the earthquakes, and they would have the Richter scale readings. But I flew to Anchorage the next day, and before I did a podcast with Shannon Rassick from Anchorage, just before we went on, the hotel captain cook, downtown Anchorage, literally the hotel's on rollers. So after the big earthquake, I think in the 60s that killed all those people, I think it was around 8 something or 9, they changed all of the building codes. And so the hotel is on some sort of engineered roller system so that it actually will flex and move with earthquakes, which is scary, but it's safer than being a stiff cement, pole. Right. But we had a 7.6, and that was pretty hairy. So I've done earthquake, I've done snowstorms, but I have not done the hurricane. So you guys have that. You have that. I have the earthquake, you have the hurricane. So let's flip the script.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, or volcano. I don't know where there's an active volcano in the United States. Kenny, you can look that up and see if we can't get a conference or something there.
Well, we can always scoot up to Iceland. We'll just go bang around there.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Well, on this short notice, do you have a shout out for us?
Well, I think, yeah. You know what? I listening to this, and I want to just make sure I don't have any more comments because something's pinging here. Do you guys see in the comments on the side?
No.
The whole feed just went upside down, and then it like duplicated everybody. So I just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone or anything.
I see Kim's comments. That's all I can see here
in the chat. Yeah.
All right, let me just bear with me 1 second here. Scott Carpenter says, Paul and Kenny, be safe.
Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, we're coming back to North Carolina, so I'm still waiting for that egg sandwich, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Charlotte tomorrow. You guys will be flying through there like 2.
Yeah, we hope.
I know you guys said last night don't eat sushi in the airport, but if you have time between terminals B and C, there is a place called First and Flight Sushi, and it is phenomenal. And the squid salad is amazing. So,
did you get the questionable salmon yesterday?
I did get the questionable salmon,
And
I'm blown away. I actually, just when you think you've heard it all, you have a day like yesterday, and then you just, all you want to have is dinner, and you order the salmon, and they ask you how you'd like it cooked. And I've talked to a couple people. I'm a food person, but I'm not like, I don't keep up with like latest trends and things. And I'm like, well, maybe there's this new trend where, because tuna can be cooked in, different ways and things, I guess. And I was like, yeah, it was the weirdest thing. The guy asked me how I wanted my salmon cooked, and I just looked perplexed, and I was like, well and good. Like, I didn't know what to say. Like, I didn't know if to say, like, I wanted to say, like, well done, like, just cook the heck out of it. But I didn't know if that was like, an insult to salmon. But yeah. So my rule now is, if anyone ever asks you how you want your salmon cooked, just order water, and then be done with it. So
get the chicken.
Get the chicken. Tastes just like chicken anyway.
Yeah, get the chicken. Do we have the paratrooper's name? I didn't know. I didn't even get who it was or what his name was.
No. Greg said his name when he gave him the shirt, but I can't recall.
Let me see if
We'll have to get it.
Hang on. Fill some time here while I'm looking through this, trying to figure out what.
It was interesting that so a lot of these people I've seen at different events. Yep. And you see them for 5 minutes. It's chat. Hey, how are you? Hey, what's going on? But this format allowed a lot of time to actually have conversations and get to know people. Like, I didn't know John Rome was a history teacher. From Louisiana. From Louisiana. And what he does with his custodians, he has started a leadership book club with them. So when they have like monthly team meetings or something, he brings in a stack of leadership books. He says, okay, everyone, open to chapter 3. We're going to read pages 26 to 29, and then we're going to talk about it. And
so they do it together.
Yeah. It's like, what? And he's like, yeah. And they sit, and I said, go ahead, read. We'll give you time. Finish reading. And he says it does a bunch of things. It brings everyone together. It raises their understanding that they are true professionals in their educational environment. They learn important things that they talk about and share together. He's like, once the first person starts talking, then they all jump in. So I'm like, that's pretty amazing that he took his experience as a history teacher, shifted careers completely, and is now a highly skilled facilities director, but knows how to motivate people and how to build them up and how to get more out of them than they know they're even able to deliver. I mean, who I've never heard of anyone having a book club with their custodial team.
No. And then we had two superintendents in the crowd, former superintendents,
yeah,
that are now in our world of maintenance and custodial. I think that's amazing. So
I figured it out.
Go ahead.
I think I figured it out. Hang on one second. I don't know if you guys had that echo that I just had.
No.
Oh, that's good.
No, all we can hear is waves crashing.
All we can hear is the ocean.
Does Alan Crapser sound right? Oregon, Gresham.
You got a picture of him?
Yeah, I'm 99% sure it's him. He was holding the microphone.
Yes. Yeah. The picture I sent you of him holding the microphone.
Yeah.
Him with the chair.
Yeah. I think I got to give a shout out to Alan this week. I think that I want to give the shout out to. There was a number of veterans and military that repotted themselves to public servancy, and I also want to acknowledge Richard Jones from Missouri, who he was in the Navy in 1968, and he was there for 22 years, and then he went into public service as facility director, and he just now left the NSPMA organization after providing support for them for the last 25 plus years, doing all the professional development and taking care of everybody. He's now at 73. Richard Jones is going to be taking care of his 12-year-old granddaughter full time. His wife passed away unexpectedly in May, and listening to Alan's story and listening to Richard's story last week, the people that have chosen public servancy for their entire life, starting in the military, having all this, and then getting out and then taking care of kids, like that's two totally opposite ends of the earth, right? Being prepared to do battle, jump out of a plane, paratroop. Richard was sharing a story that he was part of the Apollo 13 retrieval in the West Pacific in 1969, which had to have been pretty cool.
Wow.
He's also in Vietnam. Yeah. So I want to thank all of the people that signed a check up to and including their life, and gave our freedoms for us to be able to go to school and do things, and then have repotted themselves and continue to give in public servancy in schools. And thank you, Alan, for sharing your story with everyone. I'm sorry that I missed it. And to Richard Jones, enjoy your retirement. So that was a pretty powerful story, man. I just caught the tail end of it and had no idea the level of what he went through, and to continue on. I think I don't know if I'd want to work. I'd say I put in an honest 8. I think I'm good. But no, this is great, guys. Do me a favor, stay safe, have fun, enjoy each other. I wish I was there with you. I took the good booze with me, so
yeah.
All right, we got to go out and stock up now before they start closing places.
So they're going to close. They're closing everything down. Is that the story?
That's what they're rumoring.
Like the Circle K and the local grocery stores, I think are shutting down.
So all the rest.
Sure a lot of the entertainment venues were committed to stay open, but I guess that all goes by the flood levels and what the emergency management teams will say.
Yeah. Well, stay safe, stay in high ground, enjoy. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for going down there. Kenny for stepping up and speaking this morning. It's been a long 2 days, and
it was my pleasure. I'm humbled to be mixed in with the group of folks that were here. I mean, it's just really mind blowing.
I think the last person we got to talk about that was there is none other than the Godfather himself, who's still down there.
Yeah.
And he's probably got a swear word or two about me, which is I'm fine with, because it's my fault.
I find that he's mellowing in his age.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he kind of smoothed off that edge.
He was tracking the number of swears that the speakers were saying during their sessions. Yes. Guess who won? You know it.
Who?
Me. He's like, yeah. He said, you did great. I'm just letting you know. You had 8 of this and 4 of that. And I said, I dropped the F-bomb too. He's like, yeah, you did. I'm like, yeah, I did.
Well, but you got to remember, I mean, Vic's another one, Marine.
Yeah.
Marine, New Yorker, turned Beaufort, South Carolina facility director.
Yeah. Right.
And a multi-generational. His father was a facility director in the healthcare facility space. And when Vicker started the V Group, when he retired way back when, originally, he told me, I thought he was joking, because he pulled me aside and he said, hey, when I used to speak, I said the S word once and everybody gave me a hard time. He said, in the first 2 presenters today, it was said 7 times. And I was like, the first presenter didn't say it once, and I'm pretty sure I was the second one. So I think I said it 7 times. And I said, was anybody mad at me? He says, no. He says, different times. He said, I guess I should have been presenting with you guys. So
it's different times, and it's a different audience. I feel much more comfortable with my colleagues here, and it's much easier for me to be myself.
Yeah.
If I'm presenting to a different group, of course, I put on a much stronger filter.
Yeah.
So, but with this group, there was no reason to put on airs and pretend and portray to be something that you're not. Everyone here was amazing and spot on.
It was all genuine, right? It was all natural, genuine stuff. So, no, this is good stuff. No, you guys enjoy. I'll be talking to you, getting my updates and reports. Take lots of pictures. Take it all in. Get frozen pizza. Hot Pockets hold better.
Yeah,
take up less space.
A food source that potentially doesn't need power to heat it up.
I was going to say, are they still Hot Pockets if you eat them cold?
No.
Pockets.
But you can put them in ice. They probably hold for a little while. Trolley Sour Patch Worms, those are good. Beef jerky, that's a good one. Monster energy drinks instead of coffee, because you can't make coffee if you got no power. But yeah, I'd stock up on some ice. Maybe fill your bathtub up with ice and make a natural cooler. That'll stay cold for a while.
Yeah.
Cold plunge yourself. So
we'll figure it out.
It out. The locals aren't worried. I'm not worried.
That's amazing. That's like a wild thing that they just are so calm, cool, and collected. They've been there. They've been down that lonely road. So stay safe, boys. Don't go surfing. Appreciate you coming on in this impromptu. Hope everybody, this was probably the most interactive and engaged podcast we've had yet. So thanks for everybody that sat in on this. Really appreciate it. As always, we love ratings and reviews. 5-star rating and reviews. If you can do that on the podcast platforms, that's great. If you need help, just send me an email, Josh, Josh, @beawesome.com, and I'll walk you through it. And if you do that, you get a free t-shirt. Just send me your size and your name, who you are. And we got some comments. Stay safe, Ken and Paul. Hope to see you soon. Safe travels to all. NSPMA strong from Kim Keener, New Jersey. And then Don Ray, stay safe out there. It was an amazing event. Glad I made the trip, even though a short one. See everyone soon. Be well, Don. Great to see you. And it was a short one, but we'll take whatever time we can get with everybody. And those waves are picking up, man. They picked up.
They're getting big.
Those are turning into some potential surfing waves.
Yeah.
So that'll do it from here. Really appreciate everybody coming on here today. And in the meantime, if you can be anything, be awesome.